today, Cary?
Well, Robert, I'm doing pretty good. The weather has finally turned here to where it's getting warmer, and I'm eagerly anticipating shorts and flip-flops.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I have a little story for you before we begin. Well, this would be part of everything, but I don't know if I even told you this part. So I told you way back when I first heard about you was in Sacramento, and in Sacramento, you were doing all kinds of health and fitness type presentations and events and all kinds of stuff. And I met you, and you were like, doing all these presentations, and then you came out with a product line. It was called Captain Carrot. And then after that,
that was through Rayleigh's.
Yeah, and then you were on radio, and you were doing some radio and everything. So one day I started getting my mantra was always better health, and it was better health in whatever year. So if this was 2020, it was better health in 2020. So one day I decided, well, I want to see how this feels to be like Captain Carrot. So I went in my garden and I buried myself and I pretended like I was a carrot.
Boy, you're a sick man, Robert.
And so that was my thought about Captain Carrot here, Cary Nosler.
Did anyone pick you?
Yeah, it was quite interesting. But
you want to know how I got that name, Captain Carrot?
Yes, I do.
Well, I'd been a disc jockey on a local FM station, kind of the first underground radio station in Sacramento. It was called KZAP. And I was doing disc jockey stuff and kind of got tired of it.
So so here's the thing. We're on Facebook Live. This is Captain Carrot. You may know Cary Nosler as Captain Carrot. I've known the man forever. I just thought it'd be so fun to catch up with him and see what he's up to. So, welcome back to the Pat Walsh Show. Peter Cetera of Chicago, born in the state in 1944. I listened to that stuff. It's very uplifting. I don't know what it is about Chicago. Very uplifting music to me. And this might sound a little bit corny because Captain Carrot, Cary Nosler's in studio right now. And I was just telling him off air, this guy's always been an inspiration to me and to so many other people because he's always been in such great shape. And we're on Facebook Live. If you'd like to say hi to the captain here, Captain Carrot, Cary Nosler. Do you still go by Captain Carrot, or have you dropped that years ago?
People remember it. I don't go by it, but she'll come up and say hello.
You're always going to be Captain Carrot to me and Cary Nosler. I know you both.
Well, it was allowed me to do what I do. If you have to take a name like that, that's cool. I don't care because it helped me to live the life I want to lead.
I understand you have a Captain Carrot story.
Oh, my goodness. Well, no, actually, it was the story about when you're talking about the music, when you got certain songs that you play.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I started out at KZAP, for those who were in Sacramento at the time, the original freeform underground radio station, as a disc jockey, but then I switched over to doing nutrition, health things. Captain Carrot's Organic Times, they called it. One of the time, Dennis Newhall, who's still around a lot in Sacramento.
Dennis.
Well, Dennis was the jock. And after every show I did, he would try to find a piece of music that had something to do with what I was talking about, which is kind of rough if you think about it with health topics, especially as Dennis said, if I did a show on enemas. And Dennis trying to figure out where the heck do we get a song that somehow relates to that.
Kendall.
But he always found one. He was always able to get some tiny reference to some crazy topic that I'd be talking about.
Right. Well, that's why the guy's still in the business. He's a talented guy. But
you talk about seat of your pants. You don't know what seat of your pants is until you worked at KZAP.
Is that right?
Oh, my goodness.
Old KZAP?
Oh, my goodness. It was freeform. When
you're playing music, that was the dream of mine, was to go on radio and just play freeform rock and roll. Little did I know that I'd be blessed to come on radio, and because that format's, unfortunately, it seems gone. I wish it would come back, but I get to do freeform talk. I mean, I never expected that.
Absolutely. Well, you still hear KZAP type things on the internet with the college radio stations.
Yeah.
They still do it.
Sure.
You'll still find that kind of thing. But we had 3 back in the turntable days, dude. Well, now it's coming back, turntables, and
Yes.
they like vinyl.
Right.
We'd have 3 of them, and sometimes we'd have all 3 going at the same time. And you'd put in one, and then you'd overlay the second one on top of that, and then maybe you'd bring in the third one. It was very, very creative radio. It was fun. It was a lot. And no one told you what to do at all. It was all on you. No playlist, no nothing. Pick any record you want, anytime you want.
Oh, what a dream job.
It was. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
What was some of the stuff? Do you remember? Because that I would be into. I would love that, where you just, I would be so obsessed with that. I'm obsessed with my show as it is, but it would be just substituting the music. But you'd think of this record would lead perfectly into this record, crossfade and segue into this one.
And there were some people that were really geniuses at that, of being able to do that. They were doing the original stuff like that, putting it all together, and we'd have contests. We would drop the arm onto the record and see how fast people could identify the record.
Right.
Had got 1 second.
I want to play that right now.
I mean, it would touch and they say, oh, so-and-so, da-da-da-da-da. And you say, how in the world did you know that?
We're talking with Cary Nosler. You may know him as Cary Nosler. You may know him as Captain Carrot. Brian wants to say hi.
I was more interested in health, really, and actually we had a couple of sponsors that had health stuff. Sacramento Real Food Company. It was the first natural food store in Sacramento. A couple old hippies from San Francisco started it up. And then there was a thing called the Fela Soup Shop, and this lady, Jodette, who did a lot of Middle Eastern things. She only wanted me to do her spots. So finally I got tired of kind of doing that, and I took some bad advice and I actually quit being a disc jockey. And I was looking around for work, and I got a call from it was KCRA radio at the time, and a guy named Johnny Hyde, who always kind of appreciated what I did on the radio, even if I didn't understand why he appreciated it. But he wanted me to work on the station, and he kept offering me all kinds of spots, and I just said, no, I'm not interested in that anymore. And out of frustration, he said, okay, so what do you want to do? I said, well, I want to do a health spot. He said, all right, come in on noon, at the noon hour, and we got a guy, Lee, who does the noon show, and he'll ask you questions about health. So I went down there, and he never would tell me what he was going to ask me. He would just blurt out something like, tell me about ingrown toenails or some crazy off-the-wall thing. And I'd try to answer it, make some sense out of it for help. And one day they all come to me and they say, hey, look, you're really getting a lot of response here. What should we call you? And, I was still kind of a flippant hippie type from that underground radio station. And I said, I don't care what you call me, really. I don't need my name. Why don't you call me Off the Wall with Captain Carrot? And they said, wow, man, we are a regular station. Off the Wall is too off the wall. We're going to call you Captain Carrot. And at the time, I could care less because nobody knew my real name. So I figured, great, I'll just hide behind this. I'll be able to say what I want, and nobody's going to get on me. So they started calling me Captain Carrot. And people got to know me, and I started writing some little articles, had a little magazine that I'd send out from them. So pretty soon, Captain Carrot was not anonymous anymore. They knew who I was. So I didn't care, though. All I wanted to do was do health stuff and exercise and eat good food. So if I had a chance to talk on the radio, that was fine with me. And then I went back to that old station I used to work for, KZAP, and I also told them, hey, I'll be happy to do the same thing I'm doing for you. And they said, okay. So I was doing it on 2 stations, an AM station that was very, very conventional and an FM station that was very unconventional. And that's how Captain Carrot started. And then I just started giving talks and doing all kinds of stuff. And like you, just going in the garden and being a carrot.
That's a great one. I like that. Yeah. So that is awesome. So Rayleigh's was carrying. How did the vitamin line come about? How did that happen?
Well, after I'd been doing, and I should say as well that the AM station also was part of KCRA television. And so the big bosses came one day when I was doing my radio spot. And I remember all these guys standing out in front of the window. You had to look inside to see what was going on. And they're looking at me and they're all laughing. I didn't think I was doing anything funny, but they were laughing because they thought I was kind of a freak at the time. I happened to have a little longer hair at the time when nobody in the regular media had long hair. So they thought I was kind of an oddity. And in fact, they wanted to put me on television, but they had the head of the news department. Actually, they took me to lunch to grill me to make sure I wasn't some kind of a wacko. And when they decided, okay, he's not a wacko, they put me on television. So I'm doing TV, I'm doing radio. And after I'd been doing that for a while, the vice president for advertising for Rayleigh's takes me out to lunch and said, hey, we'd like to kind of sponsor some of the things that you're doing. And I said, okay. So they gave me some money, that helped. And I started doing that. And then after a while, they said, well, I think it's time for you to have a product. We're going to put out Captain Carrot bread. And we started working on developing a bread formula. It was a sprouted whole grain bread. It was really good bread. And from there, it went to bread. It went to yogurt, muffins. We put out a vitamin line. I had cheese, all this Captain Carrot stuff. So it was kind of a fun ride.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah, I used to actually buy the Captain Carrot vitamin line, especially the melatonin. That was really good. I loved all that. But I know there's a lot of people from your Facebook page that always ask that question, that what happened to Captain Carrot? They looked for it and all that good stuff. So what do you say to that, Cary?
Well, Robert, look, I'm going to tell you something, and I think you know this as well. You have to have your head on straight when you're in the media, because when I was doing all that stuff, I mean, I was so recognized around Sacramento. I remember driving on the highway one day and there was a car way behind me. I couldn't even hardly see them. And they're honking their horn as they come up and they recognized me somehow. I don't know, maybe because I had an orange Honda Civic too. That might have been a giveaway. Yeah. But wherever I went, people recognized me. And then when I started doing more product stuff and less on the media, and it was kind of like when people don't know you, when they don't hear you all the time, it's like you don't exist anymore. And if you've got an ego that needs reinforcing, from the fact that people know you, man, you're going to be in big trouble because eventually you go off the air. And I learned. I remember a guy came up to me one time and he said, "Didn't you used to be Cary Nosler?" That's my real name, not Captain Cary. He said, "Didn't you used to be?" Well, I said, "Yeah, I still am." Man, just because I'm not on the radio or TV doesn't mean I'm not me. So I kind of learned that whole thing, and just the part for me, Robert, is the lifestyle. It's always been the same thing. I don't care whether you're in the media or whatever, it's trying to figure out who I am in this world, what I'm doing, how to be a better person, a healthier person, mentally a better person. That's all. That's my life, so whether anyone else knows about me, I don't care. So people would say, whatever happened to Cary Nosler? Whatever happened to Captain Carrot? Well, I am still me, regardless,
That's
so,
right.
And talking to you, I appreciate the fact that you wanted to, kind of rekindle it, so to speak. And so, you and I together, I think we can kind of reestablish just what both of our goals are as far as health and just being good people.
Yeah, I agree. And we created a Facebook page a while back for that very reason. And we created that page, and it was Cary Captain Carrot Nosler, because that's what people knew you. So it's kind of like your middle name was Captain Carrot, So if anybody wants to know that's on Facebook, that's been there for a while.
We still get a lot of response for that, Robert. I got a Cary Nosler page and a Captain Carrot Health Guru, I think you put it down. When I post stuff, I get a lot of response. So people still know what I'm doing. It's just that I don't go out of my way to be there every day.
Right. And that's part of your character is you're very humble, Cary, and you always have been for a very long time. I mean, I'm looking at some of your bios and it shows 30 years you've been doing this. It's probably been longer than that. You even got the attention of Governor Schwarzenegger when he was in office. You were sitting on one of the panels there, advising the Department of Consumer Affairs, the Education
That was
Committee.
the Department of Agriculture. That was the agricultural.
Oh,
Not agriculture. Excuse me. The acupuncture
oh.
board of acupuncture. I was on that. He appointed me to that. But I met Arnold before that when Pete Wilson was governor. They had a fitness day at the state capitol, and Arnold was appointed by Wilson to be his health advisor or something like that. So they was at the Capitol steps, and I was the MC. There was Pete Wilson, the governor, and Arnold, and there was Jack LaLanne, who I'd met many times. There was a guy that used to be on Mission Impossible, kind of that one big guy on the TV series, and it was a whole bunch of folks. But that was quite an event, and I remember Arnold giving a very, very vibrant speech that day.
Yeah, he had a big following too here in Sacramento. It was interesting when he became governor that he had the popularity only because of his celebrity status. Everybody loved Arnold so much. And then he had he was married to and that status, and then being the governor. We had an event, and it was scheduled for about 7 p.m. We were doing a networking event, and they told us that we could not enter the event because Arnold's entourage was having a meeting there and that they weren't finished yet. And we said, well, can we go in there and kind of set up? And they said, no, not really, but you could go around it. Well, he had the whole block blocked off with all these securities and every security guards and everything, what have you, high end. And then we peeked through the bushes to see him, and he was just kicked back like nobody's business, like he was cool hand Luke or something with a big old stogie, just kicking back, having a meeting. That was Arnold, right? He was cool, man.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Well, he had quite a personality. I'll say that. He was not as successful as being a politician as he was being Arnold in Terminator and all the movies.
Yeah.
They still know who he is.
Yeah, that's funny. But I know we're gonna get on this subject here real soon. But I just kind of wanted to reminisce so that in case people forgot who you are, we kind of
that's fine. I appreciate it. I understand that.
We refreshed their memory a little bit, but I'm sure everybody remembers because when you go through the Facebook page and you look at it, they talk about all these little deals when you were on the radio. I think there was one time you were on the TV as well, weren't you, on a TV show?
Oh yeah. I was nationwide on a program called PM Magazine.
Wow.
I was the local co-host for a while, but then I was also the tipster, so to speak, on the national program. But Robert, I also did a radio show, The Wide World of Health, for like 14 or 15 years, where I interviewed everybody who's anybody in the health field. Any topic. I had not only people in the local area, but I got emails from people all over the country who had heard about the show and were interested because I had the freedom to bring on whoever I wanted to talk to. And so when I wanted to know something or something was really hot going on, I just got a hold of that person, and they were usually very accommodative, and I'd interview them. So I had still have quite a foundation from all the knowledge that I accumulated and hopefully passed on to my audience as well for all different kinds of health topics, not just the so-called alternative health, but, good doctors in the conventional field as well. If they had something to say that really benefited people, I wanted to talk to them. So, and I've got to tell you too, back in the day, everybody would write a book, right? So they sent me a book. And after 14 years, I had so many books upstairs that when I moved, I had 34 boxes of books that I donated to different groups. And there's no way I was going to take them all, but I just loved them. I just loved accumulating them.
Wow. Yeah, that is awesome. I see that in one of your bios, you have several, and I'm just trying to give little highlights from them. And again, people, you could Google Cary Nosler, just type in Cary Nosler, Captain Carrot, however you want to do it. He's all over the map. And one of the things is when it says you were in junior high school, your grandmother gave you a nutrition book. How did that take off with that nutrition book?
Oh, that changed my whole life. There was in that day, there was the head of the U.S. Olympic lifting program, not powerlifting like they do today. Powerlifting is where you do a bench press, you do a squat, you do a deadlift. The Olympic lifting was consisted of cleaning the barbell and pushing it over your head, and also a snatch where you, with one movement, you bring the bar over your head, and they usually go into a full squat and then stand up. So he was the head of our Olympic weightlifting team, and he wrote a book on protein. And I remember it was a Sunday afternoon. My grandparents would come and go with my folks. They would bowl on Sundays. And so I was just sitting in the chair, and my grandma comes in and just casually says, "Here, you might like this." And I started reading that book. Man, it was just like little signals went off of my head, because I was really into exercise too, even at the time in high school. And I was reading about amino acids and protein and performance. And I remember while they were bowling, the only health food store I knew about at the time, there weren't many in those days. I mean, at the halftime, I took my folks' car and I drove over to the health food store, and they were closed, but I just looked in there, and I couldn't wait till Monday after school to go over there. That kind of started a big cycle with me as far as research and learning. And it was an important day in my life.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, no, you were very fortunate to have a grandmother that would share that information with you, and she's probably really, really proud of you. That's right, Cary. Yeah.
Well, she was, but I got to say as well, she was an influence on me as well, because her family had come over the Oregon Trail from Ohio, I think, to come to the Great West when they were opening up things. Her grandmother. And they went up to Oregon, and Grandma was very familiar with a lot of the Indian tribes of the day and their folk medicines, and she would pass on the information to me. We would talk about it all the time, different things that she'd learned, and even if she didn't do it all, and she didn't, she was just Grandma was just a product of her times, kind of meat and potato stuff for Grandpa and all the relatives, but she had a lot of knowledge, and I kind of, Robert, I took that and as a way to get more information, because I was very interested in what older people had to say about the way they were raised, about the kind of things that they did. So I talked to a lot of folks who had good information in those days about some of our connection, with the herbs and the land and the different things that people did in those days.
Wow. Yeah, that's great insight. I know you kind of carried on with that legacy, because now you have your children, your son especially, and he's kind of doing a lot of things and all that. But he kind of reminds me a lot like you. He kind of looks like you a lot. He acts like you, and he's got that entrepreneurial type spirit to him. So
Oh, he's a chip off the old block. He's more on the chip than that. He's beyond me, in fact, at times. But it's kind of fun seeing how that all that develops, and everybody's got their own personality.
Yeah.
Things that, and sometimes you got to grow into the things that you should be doing. You may not start in the beginning at an early age like I did, but wherever you start, that's good, because you've got knowledge about life. You've seen what happens to people and yourself when you do certain things or you don't do certain things.
Right.
We're kind of in the throes of that now. I mean, with this horrible thing with the coronavirus too, the COVID-19, a lot of the folks, Robert, that are really in trouble are people who unfortunately have had very bad lifestyle habits. And so while it can affect everybody, those who have pre-existing conditions, as they say, they're the ones being hit the hardest. And so it just kind of comes home in terms of kind of survival, depends a lot on just how well you've taken care of yourself.
Yeah, and it is a very unfortunate time we're in, and that's part of the reason why both of us are inspired to do this. Because of the need right now that people want a little bit of more information on how to, boost your immune systems and everything. And so we did reach out to your Facebook page and ask people some of the questions, and we compiled them, and a lot of people chimed in with a lot of great questions and a lot of great insight to how they got to contact with you, know you, meet you, and everything. So we'll go over some of those. We'll just periodically just chime in.